Good evening, everyone. The meeting of the Monroe Township Board of Education will come to order. Please stand as our student board member leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, Mr. Gorski?
Certainly. Mrs. Arminio.
Here.
Mr. Braverman. Mr. Chiarella. Here. Mrs. DeMayo.
Here.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Here.
Mrs. Lang.
Here.
Mrs. Carino.
Here.
Mr. Ryback.
Here.
Mr. Russo.
Here.
Mr. Rutsky.
Here.
Madam Board President, you have a quorum present this evening. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted May 4th, 2018 at all schools, the Home News Tribune, the Cranberry Press, and filed with the clerk of the municipality.
Thank you. We have two presentations on our agenda this evening. The first is the Teacher of the Year and the Educational Services Professional of the Year Awards. This is a special day for the Board of Education. It's one of those days we get to honor the phenomenal staff that we have. And we have some very outstanding staff that we are going to be announcing this evening. And this is even more special to those people who are being honored because you are being nominated by your peers, which is an honor on its own. Every day, you make a difference in the lives of students, and sometimes you don't know it until maybe years later, but students always grow up and they remember their teachers. I remember my teachers, I'm sure the board remembers their teachers, so you are always special to the students you have. So we're very happy that we have this opportunity today. We had a dinner to honor our staff before this meeting tonight, and it was by our culinary arts students who created, made, and served dinner and dessert to us, and it was a fantastic dinner. I think everybody had a great time. Our principals introduced the teachers and the professionals of the year, and it really is very heartwarming and brings tears to your eyes when you hear all the phenomenal things that the teachers do and the professionals of the year do. They're not just staff members or teachers, but they are all-encompassing and more than just staff members. So I certainly enjoy this night, and I'm sure that the board and the administration does too. So at this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Kozak, Dr. Alvik, and Mr. Gorski to come to the front, and we will give out plaques to our staff members.
So as Mrs. Koloponowicz just said, it gives us great honor and pleasure to introduce and to honor some of our finest teachers of the year and educational service professionals of the year. And these are people who are nominated by their colleagues. We just had an opportunity for each of the principals to get up and to speak about the teacher in their building that was nominated and received the award, and the educational service professional who received the award. So unfortunately, we won't go through all of that, but they are amazing. They've done amazing things, and when they got up to speak, some of the stories that they told of how they worked with the children and what the children mean to them were really heartwarming and inspiring to all of us. So without further ado, we're going to start with the high school. And I would ask for each school that the principal come up. And we have two people for the high school, as for each of our schools. The first is Elena Blake Weber, our Teacher of the Year, Teacher of Social Studies. Want to do both together? Both together, okay. All right. And our education specialist of the year is Miss Erica Freeman for our transition specialist. You can tell this is a very well-planned event here, Mr. Cooper, you're stepping up once again for us. Thank you. Next, we have our middle school, Ms. Shanley. The first person we want to bring up is the Teacher of the Year from our middle school, Miss Elisa Baifuco. Yep. Teacher of Math. And our middle school nurse, Miss Alicia Rumuto. Sorry, Alicia. Mr. Ventrilo. For Applegarth School, our Teacher of the Year is the Teacher of Music, Miss Lauren Surik. And our instructional paraprofessional, or educational service professional person of the year, is Miss Patricia Dezos. For Oak Tree, Ms. Dinsmore. Our Teacher of the Year for Ms. Dinsmore is Mr. John Bukima. And our Educational Service Person of the Year is Michelle Baird. Ms. Mahoney, please come up for Barkley Brook. For Barkley Brook, our Teacher of the Year is Bethany Duino, teacher of first grade. And our Educational Service Person of the Year is Ms. Brenda Agredenet. Mr. Pepe, one up for Brookside, please. And our Teacher of the Year for Brookside is Miss Victoria DiCarlo. And our Education Service Professional of the Year is Miss Carly Collins. Ms. McNulty, coming up for Mill Lake. And our Teacher of the Year for Mill Lake is Miss Jessica Mastori. And our Educational Service Professional of the Year for Mill Lake is Miss Jody Lieboff. And Mr. Adam Lehman, please come up for Woodland School. And our Teacher of the Year from Woodland School is Miss Tricia Rutherford. And our Educational Service Professional of the Year is Miss Mary Ann Procopio. Thank you to everyone, and thank you to their families as well. Thank you.
Like to thank all of our award winners this evening, and thank you for everything that you do for our students. And this goes to all of our staff. We're just very proud of what you do and where our children end up, and it's been a nice, cohesive group. Thank you. A round of applause for our staff. At this time, we're going to have a presentation from Barclay Brook. Dr. Alvik.
Good evening, and continuing with our MTEA Pride grants, tonight we have Barclay Brook School. Our first graders in Mrs. Doucette's class worked with Caroline Etch, one of our local farmers, to learn about planting, and they are going to share with us their experience. Mrs. Doucette?
Good evening, Dr. Kozak, Dr. Alvich, board members, supervisors, principals, colleagues, parents, and students. My name is Christine Doucette, and I have been a first grade teacher at Barclay Brook School for the past 14 years. A few years ago, I was awarded a school garden grant from the New Jersey Agricultural Society to use for teaching curriculum content while incorporating agricultural concepts. For the past 3 years, I have worked with Carolyn Etch, a local farmer, on a pea plant unit that addresses all core subjects, such as reading, writing, math, science, a STEM activity, social studies, and health. Let me introduce Mrs. Etch to say a few words.
Thank you. I think it's really important that Christine reached out to me about this to help all the children understand things that happen in the garden, because they get very excited about it. The average person now is 2 generations removed from the farm, and the way that we can help everybody understand where their food comes from, as opposed to seeing a cucumber on the shelf, they need to know it comes from the plant, is to start with these children. She does a phenomenal job with these kids. They're really excited. I'm pleased to be able to be a part of it, and so I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. The students are going to just say a few words about what we did, and then we'll see a short video. This is Ruhitha.
Miss Etch read us a story about the first pizza table contest. Then we did a project about the pea life cycle. Next we planted pea seeds in the soil in the classroom. We watered them and waited for them to grow.
This is Riley.
Then we worked together to make the trellis for the pea plants. We used the sticks and yarn to make it.
And this is Matthew.
Last, we measured the pea plants to see how tall they grew. We wrote about it in our journals.
And now for our video. So I put them the seed and the sprout. Now I added the soil because that's the part we're not going to see underneath. Then you have the seedling, the pod, the blossom, and this is the pea that you can eat.
A little bit more. It would be really Dry in your mouth. What do you think it would taste like? So you like to touch everything, use all your senses. You ready for the piece?
What does it taste like? I don't know. This is
And then cover it up with salt.
I'm done.
Make it flat.
Are you going to eat the peas when you're done with them? Started.
So I planned it out on the planner, but then what I did was I planned it and then but then everyone else had an idea and I thought that it was really good so then we put all our ideas together and then we started making it and now we're working on taping it together and we're gonna build two different things too.
So how many of the students ate the peas that they grew?
Well, they're still growing.
Oh, they're still growing?
They're still growing, and the ones out in the garden are not ready yet.
And we have some future farmers in the making?
Yes, we do.
Great. So thank you for coming to our meeting and showing us about farming and how we get food from plants. Thank you. Okay. At this time, we will move on to our agenda. Student board member report.
The Monroe Township Drama Club had another successful year with a musical. They put on the production of Legally Blonde. Also, the DECA students attended the International Career and Development Conference in Atlanta at the end of April to compete in business-related events. One student got awarded the top 10 written test. AP exams began this week and will continue until the 18th. Also, Boys State and Girls State delegates were chosen. The National Honor Society will be holding inductions soon. And students and community members are participating in the 5K run and 1 mile walk to help raise funds for early detection and prevention of childhood cancer. This event is being held on May 20th in loving memory of Om Parikh.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on to committee reports. Are there any committees that need to report this evening? Nobody? Ms. Go ahead.
You go first.
Ms. Arminio?
Okay,
I defer.
No.
the ongoing security policy number 7446. In the last committee meeting, I just want to inform the public that the committee did not reach total consensus, and I thought about this for a long time, so I'm just going to mention some of my thoughts. And why isn't the policy finalized? This is the policy to arm security guards. It is on the agenda tonight for a second reading, but as chair, I feel compelled to have this discussion. Again, why isn't this policy finalized? And perhaps it is a matter of expectations. What are the expectations that this policy is meant to fulfill? Who are those who have deliberated and discussed the use of armed security guards? First and foremost, the public and the parents of the school children who came out and discussed their concerns for school security. We had the mayor and the police chief, district director of security, school safety specialist, policy committee, and the board. There are many, I think part of the ongoing deliberations is because there are many different expectations of what this policy is supposed to do, and we haven't, again, reached consensus. We have very good ideas, but it is a very important policy, again, in my opinion. This is not to delay an important decision. This is to try to get it right. For example, is the policy merely a firearm carrying policy? Are the gun carrying security guards expected to be crisis or incident first responders? None of these questions have really been definitively answered. We've discussed it, but not fully addressed, again, expectations. And I don't think there's any one flaw or fault of this. I just think it's a very important policy concern. I also don't agree that it's micromanaging. I believe it's the responsibility of the board to do the best we can. We still have security in this school, thank goodness, while we're still deliberating. Again, I'd like to remind the board that we have a New Jersey School Board on June 1st, a full day of discussion about this very policy. So while it is on as a second, I don't think having the policy on the agenda just to put it through to satisfy our fears, I think we need to satisfy our expectations and to try to get our expectations in line so we can have a policy that fulfills the expectations. And the most important aspect of that is safety and security. Again, just putting a gun in a holster doesn't make us safe. I'm just wondering, again, our expectations still, I think, are open. That we've had, and everyone has participated in discussion. I'd like to thank the committee members because we have gone over and over again, and we're trying to make this right for our community. And again, it's not always, and it's frustrating not to have it resolved yet, but it's not choosing colors for uniforms. It's a serious policy. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Arminio? Mr. Russo? Or do you want to talk about it later during policy when
I just
we're...
wanted to make one comment.
Sure.
just to underscore what Ms. Armenio says is correct. I think what's happened here is there was a reaction to Parkland in Florida, and suddenly there was this need to arm the security in the schools and to protect the students and the staff. However, in Parkland, there was armed security. So simply giving somebody a weapon is basically doing what they already did in Florida. And we see how that turned out. I think what's happening here, because I've been through experiences like this before, is we are beginning to build a police department within the school. My personal preference would be to have the police do the policing, which is what they do best, have the school do educating, which is what they do best, and I think that we would have a better result at the end of the day. Once we give the green light and we go this route, I don't think we're going to be able to turn it back. We have asked the administration for justification for why they made the decision that they made, and we're yet to get that from them. With promises over the last 3 months, I even wrote a document, which is the letter of justification, the memo of justification, which kind of points out everything that they told us, and they simply have not delivered. And that's what has taken everything so long. So I think, again, I agree with Ms. Armenio. I think what we need to do is spend more time and do this thing right. I think there are some other people here that have other information, maybe more experiences, or from people that they've spoken to about these type of things, where there are other options. And that's what I have to say. I think we need to give it more time.
Thank you. Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, I have a question, I guess, and a comment, but I'd like to know why, I don't know if anyone from the administration would like to speak to it, but I'd like to know why they're hesitant to give that, just to give that documentation over or sign it, just signing ownership. And I'm going to tell you because of history, but let me just go back for a second. I'm for the policy. The reason that I'm for the policy, because as a taxpayer, from what I understand, it's costing us about $25,000 a week to have the police officers police our schools. And while I agree that having the police officers is a good thing, you know, and I like having them, as a taxpayer, $25,000 a week is a steep price. But what's the price for the safety of our children, right? But I think that we could have a happy medium where we could have our security force armed. They are former police officers, retired police officers. We could train them properly. So I understand what they're saying, and I agree with it to the extent that I think we need to have a strong policy that gives, specifies exactly what happens when certain things happen, what happens if there's an accident, what happens if a gun is discharged, what do we do? The police department has rules for that. You know, the state comes in and they do all kinds of things. What do we do if those kind of things happen? And I think those things are important. But I also think it's important to have the buy-in from the administration to the level where we could say that our administration is backing this. What we don't want to have happen is for one of those incidents to occur, and then the administration turns around and says, well, we weren't really for it, the board members pushed this, or policy pushed this. I am going to vote for this. But I also would like to hear from the administration tonight to find out why we won't do these simple things. It almost seems to me that we want certain board members to not vote for it. And I happen to know and have spoken to both board members that are on policy and who are expressing concerns. And I do believe that they're for this policy, but they want to have assurances and they want things in place to ensure that we're doing it the right way. And I just want to understand like what the holdup is so that we could get their buy-in also.
Dr. Kozak, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I would like to respond to Mr. Russo, is that right?
Yeah, I just wanted to, just to add on what he said. Because I want everybody to keep this in mind, that when no one doubts the ability and the competence of the current staff to handle a gun. Nobody doubts that. What we're doing here is we're building a police department within the school. That's what's happening. And nobody here has that experience, including the staff you have on duty now, or on the job now. You guys don't have it. None of you have it. And I think that's what we're missing. And like I said, I don't think that you thoroughly vetted, it's my opinion, because nobody's willing to sign the document. I don't think that you fully vetted an option to use the police department. I mean, like you said, like Mr. Chiarella said, we're all residents of the town, we all pay taxes. Even if the police department had to hire 10 more police officers to fulfill this need, it wouldn't be the $24,000 a week that we keep quoting. It would be a different price, and maybe a different arrangement can be made, and it would be a lot less expensive. And you would be relieved of having that burden of providing armed security officers in the school and all the things that can go wrong with that. It would be the police department's responsibility, which is what they do best.
Yeah. So I will say that the document that you asked for, Mr. Russo, that we did put together, I researched it. I went online and looked at all different, a variety of research to support the idea of either an SRO, an armed security officer, or a Class 3 or a Tier 3 officer. I got input from Mr. Pirro, who's the Director of Security. Mr. Gorski was involved. I also spoke to the Chief, Michael Lloyd. And part of what I was looking for were some of the things you asked for, like procedures. Suppose that this doesn't occur or that doesn't occur, and some sort of policy in place. And I didn't find an online, like there wasn't a manual. I was hoping that maybe I could borrow something from the police that would speak to that. That is what the police have, and probably in most cities and towns, is years and years of having that build up. And you're correct, that's what they do best, right? That's their police department. They work with the prosecutor's office. Our rules for security come from the state, and we follow all those rules. We implement all those policies and procedures. Granted, things in the private sector, sometimes there are more resources available and they have things that are better able to support that. But we did put the document together. We checked with the board attorney as far as signing the document. I have no problem with signing the document. The attorney gave us legal advice and said to be careful if we sign one document, one policy, that also speaks to the fact that we didn't sign other policies and that could become a legal entanglement. So that's just our board attorney, and I'm not speaking for, she's not here. I'm just saying that I'm recalling the best from what I remember from our conversation. So I want to rely on the legal authority as well as far as whether I sign something or not. She did concur with what I said at the last board meeting, that when I put down anything on a board agenda and it says the superintendent recommends, that is in fact me soliciting, or not soliciting, me putting forth my approval and my recommendation. As far as recommending officers armed or arming our security, I, as a superintendent, have to take into account the input of the Board of Education, the input of the community. And I have to make a recommendation to the board, and the board has to accept that or to not accept that. Arming security officers in a school is not something I ever thought I would be in favor of 10 years ago. A little bit more 5 years ago. Recently, and especially after hearing many, many community members speak about the security, and I start thinking of how all of our lives have changed. And when we go through an airport, as an example, of the security measures that we all have to go through, that it's an unfortunate way of life. So I do support putting the armed security officers in the schools, and based on the security officers that we have, because they have the training as retired police officers, and they've built relationships where students feel comfortable sometimes giving them information about an impending problem. And I know we've just talked about that at length, and I understand your side of that as well. I also understand and fully agree with you that, as with most things, we can always improve upon the documentation, the supporting documentation. I feel that we did compile a decent amount, but certainly that's all relative. I know it's relative. Certainly this is something new, a new avenue for us, and it certainly is an important policy and an important position that the district is going in the Board of Education, of course, whether to vote for it or against it. But I do feel that coming up with the supporting documentation, and I did provide charts with comparing the SRO and the Class 3 and what other districts, I solicited information from what all the other districts in Middlesex County are doing, and we compared all that information. I just feel that to address the security now, especially now through the end of the year, is paramount, and I give you my word to continue working on to support what you and the rest of the board would want as far as supporting documentation, realizing that what an important decision this is for the Board of Education.
But we're not asking you to sign a policy. This is not something new. This is signing a justification document for making the decision that you guys are making, that the administration is making. That's what we're asking for.
Sure. And I'll sign it tonight. I mean, like I said, I have no problem with signing. When we're talking about signing things, I did want to talk to the board attorney and say, I have no problem with signing it.
Well,
what do you recommend from a legal point of view? Because the other part of what I have to do as a superintendent is to look out for the best interest of the district in a legal manner. And of course, I'm not a lawyer, so I have to rely on the advice of the board attorney for that.
I agree. But this document is basically the same thing that you would, when you created your paperwork to justify why you went with iPads versus Android, for example. It's the same thing. You're saying that we're choosing this option. The policy is about arming security. And the decision that you're making as to who to arm is a decision that was made by the administration.
It is made by the administration with the input of...
And in a very quickly it was done, really without proper vetting. We cannot deny that. Nobody went around and asked other schools what type of security they have.
No, actually, I do have that.
You have it. So
Oh, yeah, absolutely have
where is
that.
that documentation?
I had it with me at the policy committee meeting. We had all that information at the policy committee meeting. I talked about it at the policy committee meeting.
Well, there are other members that are here now that were at the policy committee meeting. Are they aware of it?
But I'd be happy to share that with you, absolutely.
Ms. Garino?
I just wanted to know, I was talking to someone that works for the Franklin Township Police Department, and they're telling me that the police department hired 13 Class 3, the new class of officer for schools. And I feel like when we started this whole policy, like everything was evolving, and they didn't have that when we first started to discuss it. So this is like a moving target, and not that you're not doing a lot of vetting, but it scares me just to hear you say, I Googled and I tried to find like how we would manage police officers. Like that's I don't. But I don't think that that's what we do. Like we educate. That's what That's like
When I say Google, let me clarify that. What I meant was I use the internet. Google happened to be the search engine, but I use the internet to look at different research policies out there. And
just the fact that we don't already know that means this is not our thing. Yeah. We don't do this, right? So I don't understand why, if other townships are using their police department, they're hiring the Class 3, and then those Class 3 are going into the schools, and then when you just said before, taking the legal, problems away from the school and the Board of Ed, like, wouldn't that satisfy that, where they can police and we can educate? And from what I'm told, they were going to be paid $25 an hour with no benefits, no stipends, no anything else. And I just think that might be a better way to go. I don't know if you spoke with them. I don't know if you went down that road to look into that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I did look into Class 3, and that is an option. But
do you know any other schools that did do that, like Franklin? I mean, did any other schools say they let the police department hire the police and then?
Can you reach out to Franklin?
There was a variety of responses to how the districts responded in what they did. So I don't have Franklin on this particular chart from Middlesex County, but I do have a number of other.
Someone said they believe East Brunswick did it that way too. I can't verify that, but, and then the only other thing I just wanted to say was, like, we are reacting emotionally because of what happened in Florida, and around 200 people came out and demanded, guns in the school. But we have 7,000 students, parents of students, and we also have teachers, who I don't know what their opinion is if they want to have the guns in the school. I don't know what the students feel. And so for what, like 4% of just the amount of students we have, we're doing all this. And I'm just afraid that once we have a police department, then, oh my goodness, they might need cars to go, between schools or whatever. It just seems like it, and I don't really believe from everything I've seen that we have the skills to manage a little mini police department here, like from an administrative perspective, and who's gonna keep track of when they qualify, who's gonna keep track that the guns are clean. I don't know. I don't even know enough to even,
But that's where I rely on our Director of Security, who does have many years as a police officer, has that experience. And also with our police department, I will say Chief Lloyd has been terrific. Anytime that I've ever had a question or we've ever had any kind of, anything at all that we needed to discuss, he's always made himself available. And
so we never discussed, like with our police department, whether they could hire those Class 3 police officers and then put one in each school, and then obviously they would bill us, we never discussed
Mr.
that.
Gorski, you want to weigh in on it?
After the tragic Parkland shooting, we had a great outreach from the community to the central office via emails and telephone calls, expressing the need to improve the security in our schools. And just lobby guard systems and locks on doors was unsatisfactory to the folks that we were hearing from. Mrs. Koloponowicz, having been reported to the volume of calls and emails that we received, asked me to immediately put together a security information meeting with the public. And we put together a very intelligently planned agenda where we didn't just talk about guns and we didn't just talk about bulletproof glass. We talked about the best ways that as a district we can safeguard students. That begins with counseling services. We had the director of guidance present. We had two principals, one from the middle school and one from the high school present, who talked about counseling and intervention methods. We spoke with the director of special services, who again talked about numerous different initiatives to identify students who had a propensity toward violence. And we have dozens of programs here to intervene and ward off the problem before it becomes a problem. The Chief Lloyd and at least 4 or 6 detectives from Monroe Township was there. Dr. Pete Pirro was there, and we had an incredible turnout. There was, to my recollection, over 400 residents at that meeting, maybe more. And the message that we received loud and clear from the public was, times have changed. We need a stronger deterrent to preventing a tragedy like this from happening to our schools. We want an armed officer in every school. And that was the starting point of a security process, which, as I mentioned before, is evolutionary and ever-changing. That point of arming a security person in every school was made loud and clear, and it was the #1 note that I believe all of us took from that meeting. So when we went back to policy, Dr. Kozak, Pete Pirro, Mary Smith, our board attorney, representatives from Strauss-Esme, numerous other school districts, Chief Lloyd, Mayor Jerry Tamboro, all of us collaborated on this very important issue on the best way to safeguard students. And in my opinion, we put together a very fine policy from the very first meeting that was superior to what other districts had done in arming staff right off the bat. And then at policy committee, there was additional requests made on top of a policy. There was requests for action plans. What have you done? We wanted to see more information about if-then scenarios, like traffic stops. What happens if somebody comes into the school? What is the steps that would be taken in order to deal with a threatening circumstance? I believe, and again, in my opinion, Dr. Kozak, Pete Pirro, and many other administrators and many other law enforcement officers and our policy service put together a compilation of information that is more than satisfactory in this regard. And it's not so much arming our security staff, but rearming our security staff. Pete Pirro and I interviewed every single retired police officer that's in our school district from the standpoint of making sure that not only are they a decorated officer after 20 or 25 years, but that they have the grade level sensitivity to be in an elementary school, that they can handle middle school adolescents and the different grade levels and all the different changes that students go through the years. High school, how would they handle difficult parents who came into the school? How would they handle bullying? And I believe we hired very fine officers who are retired, who don't need health benefits, who don't need pension, who are being rearmed. They're simply being rearmed to carry their own weapon to campus, a weapon that's delineated in the policy what it's to be, and everything that we presented passed the approval of the police chief, whose ultimate authority is not only to keep the township safe, but inclusive of that is the schools. So that, in my opinion, is the authority on the arming issue.
But you didn't answer my question. I asked you if you spoke to our police department to see if they would hire the Class 3 officers.
Yes.
And put them in our schools.
I specifically remember a meeting with Dr. Kozak and Chief Lloyd and Pete Pirro in the conference room of the administrative building. We went through every single option of armed officers.
So that
could
was
be
an
here.
option? They would hire some Class 3 officers?
We talked about every option, and by let me just finish. By unanimous consensus, we all determined that the best option here, being that we have retired police officers on our staff already, was to arm the existing officers who are eligible and licensed to carry a gun in the school.
But that's not the issue. The issue is managing them and managing the whole processes and making sure what a police department does, what a police chief does.
Yes, ma'am.
To make sure that,
Maybe at this point.
We're not a mini police department here by any means. We're armed security officers who, at best, are going to be a deterrent to stopping somebody immediate charge into the building.
And wouldn't they fall under the Director of Security?
They not only would fall under the Director of Security, but the permit to carry the gun is licensed and controlled by the New Jersey State Police. And all of the requirements to carry and all of the training and everything is stipulated by the police to have the license.
See,
So we're not a redundant department here that's going to have to manage everything to that regard. And in my opinion, our policy and everything else that we put together with it, all of the ancillary information, gives the people what they want. What we heard clearly from that security informational meeting, an armed deterrent in every school to prevent an intrusion from coming in, to stop and buy time, as opposed to someone just going from classroom to classroom.
Okay, so since we weren't at any of those meetings that you had with the police chief or with Peter Pirro or any of that, and we asked for you guys to give us the options that you looked at and the reasons why you didn't choose those, which I don't believe I ever saw, what did the police chief say as to why he would want to just have you handle it and not have his police department hire them, make sure everything is followed the way a police department, all the things that I don't even know what to ask because that's not our thing. For them to control it and put one into each school, what was his reason why he thought that wasn't a good idea?
I have no specific recollection to that question, but I will tell you that he was...
Because you said the consensus was that
Yes.
we should control it.
We should arm our retired officers here, of which who the police chief knows, most of them individually, has worked with them individually, has a communication network very clearly defined with everybody. And ultimately, the police chief said in order to get the endorsement of the police, it's going to have to be an arming of officers that the township and the police department feel comfortable with. They don't want XYZ security detail with guns swinging in the schools. They want to be able to coordinate whatever
But a Class
activities
3
are
is a
happening
retired
with our
officer,
staff.
isn't it?
They want to train with our
Isn't a Class
staff.
3 a retired officer?
Yes.
That's one. And they
So
want
what do
they
you
want
mean,
to
like a
train with our
security
staff with
detail
the
that would be
memorandum of
swinging?
agreement that we
I don't
have with the
understand.
police.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So again, in conclusion, in my opinion, administration is taking a hit here, but I believe we've done our job. We've put forth a reasonable policy that I believe is better than what other districts have, far better than some that we heard of. I believe we've gone through every extent to furnish the policy committee with our rationale and the reason and the methodology and the why. And I hope the policy and the sidebar agreement that's related passes this evening.
Okay.
May
Just
not be
wanna-
perfect, and it could be, again, security is an evolutionary process. Over time, if we find something that needs to be tweaked, we could certainly work on it.
Kathy,
But this is a
I-
wonderful first step,
I just
and
want to
that's
direct
on behalf of everybody who I mentioned
this
before.
question to you, because you know the past as well as I do. A lot of talk. The board votes, and the board, at the end of the day, is always responsible. And the reason why we ask for justification is because we know that the administration doesn't have the experience to build a police department in the school, which is what they're doing. And we know there are other options which haven't been explored, and the costs haven't been examined. We keep throwing around that figure of $24,000, and
Mr. Russo,
it's not right.
just to give you an analogy.
One second. So what we did was we asked some questions. One question I asked, which alarmed me, was, do you have a current threat assessment for each of the buildings? And nobody could answer that. So it shows me that the people we have don't have the experience to create a police department, and they haven't done it already. You have nothing prepared. So the idea is give them guns, and then we'll, as Mr. Gorski always says, we'll evolve. We'll work our way through it. I don't think it's the right way to do it.
Mr. Russo, I'm not a financial advisor, yet I refunded $60 million worth of bonds, saving this district over $8 million. You don't have to be an expert in everything that you research, vet, bring in professional expertise, and recommend to the policy committee. And again, we're not building a police force. We're rearming security officers on our employment already who have had at least 20 years of public service as a police officer, have been particularly vetted for the school application where they serve, get reviewed annually, have impeccable service records with the Monroe Township Board of Education, who the police chief is ultimately comfortable with in carrying a gun in the schools. And we believe that is the best deterrent to stop someone from going classroom to classroom to classroom to classroom when
Then
they
sign the
intrude in a school with a
justification
weapon.
document. That's all we're asking.
Okay, I'm just going to intercede for 1 minute as the prerogative of the chair. Again, I think this is a clear indication that expectations are still all over the place. I respect Frank and Dawn's perspective, but that's not necessarily, again, the consensus of the committee. Everyone has their position that we're all trying to understand. But I just heard something now that I do want clarification for, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, Mr. Gorski, but I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this is the first time I'm hearing it, that when we do hire additional police officers, will they only be from Monroe, and they will also, and the chief will be involved in the hiring process by reviewing our hirees?
No, that is certainly not what I said.
Okay.
We have police officers on our staff now who are retired who were not from Monroe.
No, I'm not talking about those we have presently, because that's what I think we understood the policy to cover. What I thought you just said about the chief being comfortable with the people, I mean, going forward, is the chief of police, like, who's going to do the hiring? Is it going to be the board? If we pass this policy as such, are we taking into consideration recommendations from the police chief in Monroe? Is that what we're saying? Are we going to have just Monroe retired policemen, or I just thought you mentioned the police chief in the hiring process, and that's the first that I'm hearing, and that again goes to what the expectations are that we're all not clear about.
I'm happy to comment on that.
Okay.
Again, we do not just hire Monroe Police. That's clear. We have fine officers from other departments that are on our staff who have retired from there. The police chief will not be involved in the hiring the hiring screening of future officers for hire. That responsibility falls initially with the security director, Pete Pirro, who is a sergeant with the Monroe Township Police Department, and me. Because on the district flow chart, I am Pete Superior, and I recommend the person after interviews and reference checks to Dr. Kozak for ultimate hire to the board. The police chief's point that I referenced was that to have the coordination of the Monroe Township Police work best with the Monroe Township Security Detail, they should be retired police officers so that the police can be comfortable in their background, their training, their mental state, as we talked about at committees. It's not XYZ security detail coming in here with God knows what temperament carrying guns in the schools.
Right.
These are the very finest of the officers who have retired, who are particularly vetted for the grade level applications where they're being presented. And like the other 8 that I believe that I interviewed and recommended Dr. Kozak into the board, they will serve very well this community.
Mr. Ryback?
Oh, as long as we're commenting now, I might as well give my comments. First, as long as we're commenting now, I might as well give my comments. I agree with Mr. Chiarella and thank Mr. Gorski for his answers, and I also feel it's necessary to thank the policy committee for their work in this. I know they're very sincere in their beliefs and everything they've been saying and doing. However, I think that I'm going to be voting yes on this because, we mentioned Florida. Florida was, it's certainly an emotional incident, but it's also a rude awakening for all of us here, that this is something that can happen in any school, in any community. Personally, I'm not willing to jeopardize the safety and well-being of any children or any staff member in our school while we're deliberating and taking weeks or months to deliberate. I think we have to get these officers in the schools as soon as possible, and we could certainly work out things after that. For myself, I have the utmost confidence in our director, Pete Pirro, and his staff. You're talking about retired policemen with years of experience. These aren't rookies. They've been around the block many times, and they've faced situations that we probably couldn't imagine. They have my confidence, and I think that we have to get these officers in these schools yesterday.
Anyone else? Because we're still on the policy committee. So this is really
That's
not.
all I have.
Yeah, this is not.
No more committees?
No, we probably have more committees, but
I think
this was a conversation for policy.
You can go first.
Yeah, let me
Okay,
do this.
Mr. Rutsky.
Let's do the let's take this to the finance committee for just a brief second. So,
We're taking the
Okay.
policy committee to the finance committee?
exactly.
Okay.
We spent this last meeting getting an update from Mr. Gorski on Falcon Care and early childhood enrichment programs. And good news is they're roughly on track for the same progress and profits that they showed last year. Currently, we're at about $361,000 of profit for the 9-month period, which if you extrapolate that out over the year, that should be close to the $500,000 number that we brought in last year. And to remind everybody, we put that to good use, putting it towards, redirecting it in the budget towards the upcoming trailers. So those programs running very smoothly, very well. For all those interested parties out there, there are open spots. Falcon Care has roughly 80 spots still available, and Early Childhood Enrichment has roughly 20 spots still open. For what it's worth, the numbers are slightly down this year. That's believed to be temporary, based on just the ebbs and flows of the population in town. So good news all around on that. $500,000 should be our profit. We'll put it to good use once again when we're making decisions on next year's budget. So that's that. On to lunch. So the state, believe it or not, is requiring us, going to lunch. State's requiring us to raise lunch prices by a dime. Hopefully that's not anything too detrimental to change anybody's plans. We try to keep the lunch prices as low as possible. Raising it a dime, again, should be peaceful. It meets the state standards. And good news that always comes out of the back of that is always any additional profits or increases in our profits will go to upgrading equipment such as steamers, walk-in refrigerators, other equipment, which will be a group decision by Ms. Mitrosek and Mr. Gorski as that time comes. And last, we just got a quick update on the budget from Mr. Gorski. It's been submitted to the county, it's been advertised, and the user-friendly budget, along with all additional information, has been posted on the district website. That concludes my Finance Committee notes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Chiarella?
I do. And for the next 2 hours, I'm going to go through this. I'm just kidding. I don't know if I can am I allowed to say the student's name for this Eagle Scout project?
Are you allowed to?
Use the student, we have the student's name in the report. I didn't know if, or can I?
Yeah, because that was a public meeting, so the public could have
Okay,
come in
all right.
to that meeting.
I just wanted to, I didn't want to say
Yeah.
his name and then. Okay, so we had an Eagle Scout presentation. So Devin Van Dusen is doing he's an Eagle Scout candidate, and he presented a proposal to paint the United States on asphalt at Woodland School. So our committee is recommending that we approve that and allow him to do that. It was nice, and we thought it would be good for. We've had other students do similar things, and that it was a good geography lesson too for our students to be able to see that and see where the states are located. And I thought it was laudable to have a young person not only trying to become an Eagle Scout, but looking to paint the United States and do a geography project. I thought that was pretty awesome. We also looked at our turf field replacement project. So our current turf field at the middle school has outlived its life. And if anyone knows about turf, AstroTurf, and the stuff that we currently use, it's made out of crushed up tires. And if you've ever played on that in the summer, you know that it gets hot. So we were looking at a thing called a Cool Play infield mix, so that it has the durability and a long life, but it doesn't heat up the way the truck tires do. It also doesn't have an environmental impact, so that it's made of non-toxic materials, so we're not looking at poisoning the water or anything like that. I don't know how safe having shredded tires are out there, but having that removed, I think, makes me feel a little better, and having a cooler place for our children to play, I think, is also important. So we were, the administration was able to negotiate a standard 8-year warranty, and we were looking at putting in some damages and things like that for lateness and things. So hopefully that will go. Our committee is recommending that we move forward with that also. We also had an update on the transportation routing system. So our director, Kathy McDonald, our transportation director, Kathy McDonald, put a routing system in place, or asked for a routing system to be put in place when she first arrived here. We obliged, and she was able to work out some efficiencies using that new system, which caused a reduction in contracted bus routes, which is always a good thing. So, not our own bus routes, our own bus drivers and our own buses, but the contracted ones. And those are usually the ones where we have issues with, for whatever reasons, but we always do have, our problems are primarily with the contracted routes. But anyway, that reduction in those routes will save the district about $385,000, so that's a good thing. So we went through that. We also have a number of vehicles, buses and a maintenance vehicle that have also outlived their usefulness, and through state statute, we're no longer allowed to use. The replacements were in our budget, but what we've recommended to the board is to go forward with govdeals.com and to liquidate those buses, to sell those buses so that we could take that money and then put it into the general fund. And then we had two additions to our meeting. The first was it was that our committee asked for a status on the acquisition of the golf site for the middle school, and that'll be forthcoming, I believe. And then the second was that Dr. Kozak asked our committee to entertain helping the 5K run in honoring Om Parikh, and for us to look for ways so that we could help with busing, transportation depot kind of thing, so that we could shuttle, and we're in the midst of doing that. So I reached out to the board president, and we're looking at how we could help with that. So if you want to.
Dr. Kozak?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
nope, that's fine.
I did reach out to the person who I believe is chairing the Education Foundation, only because there was a little time, it's time sensitive. And they agreed today it would be about, I think it's 350 or 375 hours, or $350 to provide a shuttle bus. And the Education Foundation said that they would support that.
Oh, great.
So I did send a note to one of our parents who's involved in that organization, and I plan to be there that morning as well. It's Sunday, anybody in the audience, Sunday, May 20th. It's a 5K run or a 1K walk. And the money being used, by the way, there were questions asked. All the money goes to charity. They do have, I think, 501c3. And there was another question asked. But all of the money is going back to either help cancer research. The group wants to put a scholarship in place for the class of 2022, I think, which would have been Ohm's graduating year. So they want to put a scholarship there as well, and also money to help families that have children that are dealing with childhood cancer.
I think that's wonderful. So thank you for that follow-up. I think that's great. And thank you, also to the board president, because I know she's a member of the MEF, Monroe Education Foundation. So I appreciate that, and thank you I know we had a lot of questions, so I'm glad that you followed up on those and you gave us an answer tonight. And that's all. That's the end of my report.
I have
Ms. Arminio?
a question for, did we get an update on the land?
That was the other.
I don't have one unless Mr. Gorski has one. I don't have any. I think you had said that,
Are we going to wait till the next committee
No,
meeting?
I sent the update on the land home with the weekly confidential as
Okay, I
requested
didn't
on
get that.
Friday.
Okay, I didn't get to read that yet.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other committee reports? No. Seeing none, we will go to the public forum. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to the agenda, please come to the microphone and give your name and address for the record, and we will adhere to our 4-minute time limit.
Anthony Prezioso, 8 Equestrian Way. Kathy, what is the status of the superintendent's contract?
That's not on the agenda.
We're talking about contracts today on the agenda.
That's not on the agenda.
Contracts are not on the agenda?
The superintendent's contract is not on the agenda.
Okay. I have a question to ask. The curricular committee wants to have Alexa brought into the school rooms. Is that correct?
That's not on the agenda either.
Well, committee meetings.
Sure.
Yeah, we have a pilot going on where 2 classrooms are using Classroom Alexa to help manage the classroom, and they're going to expand that.
Okay. Michael Gorski and Dr. Kozak came up with a budget, and they just about squeaked out getting it done, and they did a good job. And now we're introducing another payment for technology.
I don't remember. There's no cost.
There's no cost to that?
Not at the moment, no.
Not at the moment, but there will be a cost down the road.
I can't speak to that.
Okay.
Do you remember what?
Thank you.
If you would like.
Right now, there's no cost. If it expands and if other teachers want to do it, then it would be something that we would have to budget for in future.
Thank you.
Prakash Parab, 33 Dana Drive. Thank you very much for providing shuttle service for 5K for home. We are organizing that, and thanks for explaining. It is very good. Just regarding the policies, I don't know. It was stated that homework policy we'll be discussing in month of May, if I recollect, and that is true. So I didn't hear about where we stand on homework policy.
On the homework policy, I think that will be coming out in June.
June, so the May, okay, you know better than me what is. She knows, I don't know, I don't want to direct the question to whom. Dr. Alvich knows more than us, so she can, thank you.
As I had reported a couple months ago, the homework policy was continuing to work.
Okay.
I will be recommending to add it to the policy agenda and the curriculum agenda in June.
Okay.
To share the research presentation from the committee as well as the revised policy.
Okay, thank you very much. Now regarding the discussion on the security of the students, this has been happening for last 5 years or 10 years. Shooting is going on at the random place. So thinking has changed. And we are not having a police department in the school. I request that when this happened, there were more than 500 people came to that meeting in high school. And I wish all the Board of Education members would have been there. Now questioning those again here is not good. And the mayor came to the Board of Education and said, we will give police department help for next 5 months. After that, come up with the policy, just arming the current security officer, which are ex-police officers. So that is the thinking. I'm surprised. We spent 1 hour on that. I have said that the parents are tired. The parents have issues, and they want to come before 8 and talk to the Board of Education. By the time we get to that, it is 10:30. So I respect. If you all have communication, do the communication before the meeting. I worked in corporation. I didn't wait till the president came. We talked to each other and resolved the issue. I request you all to talk to each other. Talk to the administration and BOE, not to the BOE members should talk to the administration. Remove the phone. There are policies you cannot talk. You have to talk in group. Do it. Have the meetings. Not spend here 1 hour. Okay? So that is my request. And I have not heard where we stand on the referendum. We voted the referendum on March 13th. Now it is May. So, schools are overcrowded there. That is the most important thing to do when we are going to have referendum decision. When the referendum will be and what will be taken into consideration. Is the BOE discussing on that, President?
We hope to have a steering committee to meet within the next week so we could discuss where we're going with the referendum. I think we've had a couple of issues that we've been working on. One is the contract for the teachers, so that is my priority before we go to the referendum. But I have asked to have a meeting with the steering committee
Yeah.
so that we can have another conversation about the referendum.
Yeah. I will request you all, at least in the next meeting, please tell, public is waiting, you know, to hear where we stand on that, what is the Board of Education plan. So we'll request you all to, next meeting, at least give us the update, okay? I'll appreciate that. Thank you very much. My
Thank
time
you.
is over.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the agenda?
Hi,
Hello, you
Joyce
have an agenda
Oliva.
question?
Yes, I do, and I know all the rules.
No, I know
Joyce
you
Oliva,
do.
Formerly Sweeney, that's, most of you know me as. Las Vegas, Nevada now. Do I need to give an exact street
No.
address? Good. Anyway, the first thing
Not unless you have a residency at one of the hotels that we can come to.
I have rooms in my house for you, Kathy.
Okay.
Anyway, I know the bill list because I've been up online for the agendas, and there's all the backup except for bill list, which I know in 2015 there was a court case, and it was decided that it did not have to be printed to the public because it's so large. However, from a transparency point of view to the public who is paying the bills, I know that you're already scanning the bill list as a file. Why can that not be put online so if the public wants to, they can line item by line item see what's being approved? That's just one issue. Item P under the Business Administrator's report about the synthetic turf states that it's referencing a November 8th proposal. However, the backup for that is dated May 7th, not mentioning anywhere November 8th. So has the proposal changed at all, or is it possible that there have been changes but not noted? That's another question.
Is this a business administrator's report? Number B?
P, as in Peter.
Oh, P.
I can say that we had a bid opening for the turf project, and we got a proposal that is significantly under what was in the budget. I'm not familiar with the specifics of the date issue that you bring up. I'll be happy to look into it and.
Well, it's your report, so you should have seen it when it was done, Mike.
Thank you.
So
You're right.
I don't know the discrepancy between November 8th, was that an initial proposal, or the letter dated May 7th with dollars and things? What is the exact amount being approved? I guess that's my question. What was November 8th, or what was in the letter? But that's neither here nor there. And then as far as the guns in the school, you have an armed guard up here, somebody down there with a gun. Same thing happens like in Parkland. Issue, maybe do not allow any of the doors other than these doors to open at all. Put cameras by the door so if any kids try to open them to allow people in, at least you know who is doing it and you can deal with it. But loaded guns in a school is asking for trouble.
Thank you.
That's it.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the agenda?
Good evening to the Board of Education. First of all, I want to congratulate all the teachers on the Teacher Appreciation Week. And thank you very much for your patience for waiting for over 300 days to get the contract. I've been coming to this board for the last 2 years, and I have seen the way board has been functioning. And every time I came up here, I offered my help, directly or indirectly. And today, I'm not going to take this anymore. What I see is a dysfunctional Board of Education that's at odds with each other, compromising the security of our kids. And I can't tell you how much of unnecessary stuff that's being focused on, taking our eye away from what we really need to focus on. The referendum has been defeated. Kudos to those who really supported the referendum to be defeated. Now, after 2 months later, we got absolutely nothing, and it's going to cost us money for that. We don't have the superintendent's contract renewed. We don't know where that's going. The teachers finally, hopefully today, they're going to get their contract. And there are a bunch of other things. The freeholders, the security discussion that I heard, I completely agree with Prakash. For an hour you're discussing, I asked those people who are not voting on this today, do you have your kids in that school? If you do, if you care for them, you would not even have a discussion. 84 days have passed since February 14th when the Parkland has happened. You're sitting here and discussing it still? Shame on you guys for doing that. The guard should have been armed right away. I'm sorry to be vocal about this, but I'm telling you, what I see is with all these issues sitting here, we get on the Facebook to say who called whom goofy. That's not what we are here about. We want to sit here to talk about resolving the issues our district faces here. I'm not looking for applause, guys. We're all responsible for promoting this stuff. Let's try to solve the problems in front of us that needs to be solved rather than personally attacking people and unnecessarily spending our energy and time on things that really don't matter. What matters is taking care of our kids and our schools and our teachers. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the agenda?
Christine Patterson, I'm at 4B Edinburgh. I'd just like to comment briefly about the security discussion that was had here. There's a saying that hard cases make bad law. Hard cases can also make bad policy. And the horror of Parkland, added to the horror of all of the other school shootings that have taken place around our country, has created an emotional tidal wave pushing towards putting guns in our schools. Now, maybe that is the answer. I don't know. But I do know that 84 days is not too long to take to make a decision of that monumental size. We are talking about putting guns in our schools. I'm amazed that I'm standing here even saying those words. And take the time it takes to get it right. Don't rush into it because a lot of people are emotional about it. I don't want my grandchildren to be in danger in school any more than I want anybody else's children to be in danger in school. But I also don't want you to rush into it because people stand up and yell at you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, we will close public forum and go to the superintendent's report. Dr. Kozak.
Thank you, Madam President. This week is recognized as Teacher Appreciation Week. And we recognized our Teachers of the Year and our Educational Support Personnel of the Year tonight. And they certainly deserve that appreciation. But again, I would like to also offer our appreciation for all of our educators throughout the district. And it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and it does represent our teachers, and they do deserve the praise for taking on such a difficult job and for what they're doing day in and day out. And I would like to also just add that I consider all of our staff members to be educators. So that includes our bus drivers and our paraprofessionals and our custodians and our administrators and everyone else. And that is certainly not to take away from our teachers. They deserve, they are in the forefront with our students. But I just wanted to applaud all of our educators and our teachers throughout the district during this week. They've done a great job. During this week, our parent groups and our administrators certainly showed their appreciation for our teachers. They've arranged for special culinary treats and other niceties. And again, I just want to recognize the work that they do throughout today and throughout the year. On Thursday, tomorrow night, the Department for the Applied Arts and Careers Technology will be presenting their semi-annual jazz and percussion concert at the Monroe Township Middle School. And this year, the Monroe Township Middle School Percussion Ensemble, under the direction of Mr. Yale Snyder, and we heard his work with some of our younger students, our 5th graders and a 6th grader earlier tonight. They were going to be premiering a world premiere performance of a brand new piece, Luminescence, which was commissioned by and composed specifically for the Monroe Township Middle School Percussion Ensemble by the internationally renowned composer, Dr. Nathan Daugherty. If you cannot attend the concert tomorrow night, they're doing something a little different, which I thought was great. It's going to be on Facebook Live. So anybody with access to Facebook will be able to view this concert. And my understanding is the composer is in Chicago attending to either a concert he's conducting, he's doing something on a professional level, but he'll be able to watch the premiere of this from Chicago through Facebook. So I thought that was pretty innovative for what our percussion ensemble is doing. Our music department, certainly under Zach Morado and Mr. Yale Snyder in particular, as well as all of our music teachers. We put out a Falcon Express with some of our upcoming music performances. Anybody that saw the Legally Blonde or any of the other performances recently or in the past years knows the level of expertise that our students bring forth to the stage. We are so fortunate to have outstanding students who excel academically, artistically, athletically, and in many other ways. But please take some time if you're available. Tonight there's actually a musical theater performance in the PAC. Tomorrow night I mentioned the Jazz and Percussion Show. Thursday, May 17th, is the High School Evening of the Arts and Spring Concert. There's a gallery walk to look at the artwork that the students produce. Tremendous. And then you could go and hear the chorus. Tuesday, May 22nd, is the middle school chorus concert. Wednesday, the 23rd, is the high school chorus concert. Thursday, May 24th, is the Applegarth concert. And just two more, if I may. June 5th, the Woodland Elementary Spring Concert, and Wednesday, June 6th, the Brookside Elementary Spring Concert. As I mentioned, our students and our staff today, Mr. Byers, Greg Byers, our athletic director, sent out an email stating that at the GMC Sportsmanship Banquet, our athletic program was awarded the 2017-2018 GMC Red Division Sportsmanship Award. Oh. That certainly speaks to the character of our students and their parents. They get that, and their teachers, right? They get that from somewhere. So congratulations to all of our students and to our staff. For the Board of Education, I would like to bring your attention to a couple items under the personnel section of the agenda. The first is letter A. I think I can speak on behalf of the Board of Education to thank Ms. Beth Goldstein, teacher of mathematics at the high school, for 36 years of service to the students, staff, and community of Monroe Township. So, not to be outdone, we also have letter B, a thank you to Mr. Larga Green, a maintenance mechanic for the district, for his 36 years of service. No, we will invite, I'm not sure if they're here tonight, but we invite all of our retirees to the June board meeting, so they will all be invited at that meeting. Just another note on letter P of your agenda. The online agenda was corrected, but if you have the paper copy from a couple days ago, there was a paraprofessional that was removed due to she was put on there previously pending successful completion of pre-employment requirements. And to date, those requirements have not been met. So the online version is correct, but we did remove the person from the agenda. So letter P, it's one of the people in that chart that is removed. Also, I want to state that letters L, M, 0, and P. These are reappointments that the salaries and steps listed are based on the old guide. And once the new guides and steps are in place, reapproval will need to occur. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And with that, I recommend to the board to approve items A through Q in the personnel section of the agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Ryback, any comments or questions for Dr. Kozak?
I just have one comment overall on his report. And I just want to say that, if you look at enrollment, the high school from 3/31/18 through 4/30/18 had an increase of 134 students. So, although I understand and I agree with the need for the middle school, for a middle school to be built, we need a new middle school badly. We also need a new high school, the addition to the high school. And we can't, I think that when over the next week, when you call the committee together, that has to be something that we look at too, because it's just a glaring problem that we need to fix, and that's all I have.
Anyone else?
Can you just repeat the letters again? I'm sorry. From,
Dr. Kozak?
Sure. For anything particular?
no, just from
Okay.
where to where? A through
Okay.
Q, like page 48 Q?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, the letters, for the whole
Yeah,
thing,
for
I'm
the
sorry,
whole
A
thing.
to Q, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I just want to get the section. Okay.
Because the letters are cut off.
Yeah, that's why the letters are cut off. Okay.
Anyone else?
Oh, my phone.
No problem.
Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call.
Personnel items A through Q. Mrs. Arminio?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo?
Yes.
Mrs. Lang?
Yes.
Mrs. Carino?
Yes, recuse on Nancy Dempsey.
Thank you, so noted. Mr. Ryback?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Recuse on all.
Recuse on all. Thank you, so noted. Mr. Retzky?
Yes, to all.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Madam Board President, personnel items A through Q has passed.
Thank you. No. Board action?
Yes, for board action, I recommend to the board approval of items A through L.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Ryback? Again, comments or questions for Dr. Kozak? I did have a question on E, and because it's the 2017-2018 school year, so that's correct.
Yes, it is.
I didn't know if that was for the next month or was for something next year.
No, I believe that is for the 2017-18 school year.
Okay. Anyone else have a question, comment?
Comment.
Ms. Arminio?
On F and L, my comment is, I take exception to Mr. Ryback's comment about keeping the students safe. The implication is that they are not safe with the ongoing police presence, it seems to me, and that if a board member votes no, that they're making the students unsafe. So I take exception to that. And to the comment of some people in the public, which is related to this, deliberation in a public forum is the responsibility of an elected government body. It promotes transparency. And the alternative is to have no discussion and approve everything and anything. And if that's what I don't think that's what the public at large really wants, to go back to that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Would this be the time to speak about the policy?
Sure.
Okay, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Chris. I haven't spoken my thoughts yet, and I think there may be some confusion as to where I stand and what I represent with regards to the security policy, so I wanted to just make a brief statement. So, as a representative from Jamesburg, I should let it be known that we voted to not hire armed police officers for our two schools, and that was based on the board's review and decision about we're two small schools, we're K through 8, and we felt it unnecessary. As a representative to the students in the high school, I do see that as a very different story. And so I look at that differently. And based on the people that I've spoken to, parents with children at the high school, as well as I'm friends with a lot of Monroe parents and their thoughts. So what I've heard from Monroe residents is their desire to put the guns in the hands of the trained police officers that we already have employed here in the district. And while it's understood that it's not going to solve all problems. While there's other training that should go into place for the school district, the teachers, and so on, this is what's been asked for in response to what's out in society. And so I would say that Director Pyro, who's in charge of the current 8-member staff that is employed through the school district, is well equipped to do his job. From what I've seen, from what I've heard, he's more than qualified. Being a sergeant with the Monroe Township Police Department, and correct me if I'm wrong, he oversaw a group, a staff of more than 8 people during his career. So to manage 8 people that he's already managing, simply giving them guns and arming them for everybody's protection, I vote for that. I will be voting for that. Again, just to separate what I voted for in Jamesburg versus what I'm voting for in Monroe, different reasons, different scenarios, honestly, different responses from the communities. And so for that, I will be voting for that policy. Just wanted that to be cleared up.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. Lang?
I also had something that I wanted to say about the school security program policy. When I started teaching in 1982, I never thought, 1986, I take that back, never thought that there'd be a time where you really felt that you needed to have armed security guard in school. So since the beginning of this discussion, I have said very clearly, I am not thrilled with the idea. I don't think any of us are. I think it's heartbreaking to think that we have to take such stringent measures to keep our children and our teachers and our staffs safe. But I support the policy. I support the policy. I believe that we have to take every opportunity to support our students and our teachers and our staff. But I also know that within our policy guide, we have over 15 different security policies addressing different points of it. And I really hope that this is the beginning of a conversation and not the end of a conversation, and that we will continue to look at all different measures to keep our students safe. I know that the government, at the legislative meeting that I attended this past weekend, they are going to shortly be announcing another very large grant opportunity for school districts to improve security in their schools. I hope that we take advantage of that. I know I personally like to see vestibules in all of our schools where we limit the access. But I think it's important that we look at, we can't shut our doors to one particular policy, and that to me, this is really the beginning of a fuller discussion. So thank you.
Actually, can I come back?
Sure.
I forgot to add one thing.
Okay,
I'm
Mr.
sorry. So
Gretzky.
I absolutely, that was one of the things I was going to mention, was hopefully this was a living, breathing policy that can be adjusted over time, like everything else, budgetarily and or policy-wise, can always be reviewed, can always be adjusted. For what it's worth, as the finance chair, from what I've seen on the recommendations, the additional expense to arm our current 9 officers would be less than what it would have cost us to hire 2 full-time officers in Jamesburg. So, and it's certainly less than what the township is paying right now to put their overtime officers in our schools. So as the finance chair, I just wanted to make that clear as well. I think it's fiscally sound.
Thank you.
If we're going to go that route. No, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mr. Mayo?
I would just like to, I totally support what Patty has said. I support the policy. I just want to say that I have the utmost confidence in Pete Piro and his staff to know what they're doing to handle this appropriately. I feel totally confident in their abilities. And I do think that we need to start talking about physical barriers in school so that it's just one of multiple ways that we protect the students. Thank you.
Mr. Russo?
The whole thing started with Parkland. And I would like to challenge everyone to Google the Promise Program and Parkland. Promise Program in Parkland. Pretty interesting. At Parkland, they had armed security officers in the school. and still they had a problem. So putting a gun in the school is not a 100% guarantee that we won't experience something like that. I believe the intervention, Mr. Gorski mentioned that earlier, is probably the best approach to stay on top of it. That was the mistake that they made at Parkland, and it was due to this Promise program. I don't have, personally, and I've had a lot of experience with this, and also Mr. Ryback, we do worry about students in the school. My wife works in the school, so we are concerned about security. I'm a veteran. I was in the military. Okay? You don't put yourself out more than that. I worry about security.
I never said you didn't.
And I don't have confidence in the administration creating a police department in school, and that's my point. I think more work needs to be done there.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, we will have a roll call on board action items.
Board action items A through L. Mrs. Arminio.
Yes on everything, abstain on F and L.
F and
L
L.
as in
Thank you.
Larry.
Thank you.
Or as in licorice, or as in, what else?
Larry.
Sounds like L.
I like licorice.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mrs. Carino.
Recuse on K and L, no on F, and yes for the rest.
Did you get that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Russo.
Yep. Recuse on K and L, no for F, and yes for the other items.
Thank you. Mr. Rutsky.
Yes to all.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Bear with me a second. Madam Board President, board action items A through L has passed.
Thank you. Okay, so we will go to the Business Administrator's Report, Mr. Gorski.
Madam Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through Q be approved by consent roll call.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ryback and Mr. Rutsky. That's who I heard first. Okay. Comments or questions for Mr. Gorski, Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, I just have a comment because this was brought up in Buildings, Grounds, and Transportation at our meeting. So in P, the KPN with the dates actually refers back to when we joined that cooperative. Those were the dates for the cooperative that we submitted for the bids for the new turf field. So that's why the dates seem off, but that was our joining of the cooperative, and that was part of our.
Oh, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
And I just have a quick
Ms.
question, and
Arminio?
I'm sorry I didn't see this sooner. On 2A, recommendation regarding Brinkerhoff Environmental Services, is that still for the 65 acres? Are we still using that for the 65 acres? Or is this just that we're accepting them for the next year, if we need them?
It's the latter. It's
The latter.
accepting them for any environmental needs that may arise. We have an approved, licensed professional.
Okay, so they're the go-to people. And the same for the civil engineer of record, Edwards Engineering Group? Are they still looking into both parcels at this point? Or again, they're stopped right now and we're just hiring them for next year?
It is my understanding that all appropriations into the 65 acres has all but ceased. If it
Okay.
hasn't ceased entirely, I
Okay.
haven't seen a purchase order or a requisition for anything for that for the longest time.
So
So
again,
it is ongoing as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, we will have a roll call, Mr. Gorski.
Thank you. Board action items A through Q. Mrs. Arminio.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mrs. Carino.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Russo.
Yes, I was going to ask you about item number 3 on the A, but considering, is this related to security or just for staff in general that need this treatment? Because in that case, I'd vote yes.
Mr. Russo, under professional appointments, number 3, it is related to security. You may recall the policy committee wanted to go beyond the state police requirements and have a psychological test performed for competency on all armed officers. So this professional will provide psychological examination services as per the policy at a rate of, I think, $500 per exam.
Okay.
How are you voting?
Does that change your vote?
Yeah.
No, I voted yes on everything. I just wanted to know what it was.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thought it was for other staff members as well, which I thought would be a good idea. Just joking.
We have another outlet to send staff if we need psych evals.
Yeah, it happened.
The intent of this was specifically for the officers.
Okay.
Mr. Rutsky
Yes, to all.
and Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, board action items A through Q has passed. Thank you, Mr. Chiarella, for that clarification. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay. Board President's report, I am going to forego that today because I'd like to take the time to use to talk about the memorandum of agreement in closed session. So I'm not going to have a report. So we can go to other Board of Education business. Mrs. Lang.
Thank you. I've attended a bunch of different things over the last 2 months that I just wanted to share. I don't remember the exact date, but at about 4:30 in the afternoon on a Monday, I got word that the Middlesex County Board of Elections was meeting to discuss whether or not they should move the polling places out of the Monroe Township schools. So I hopped in my car and I drove to East Brunswick. And I got there as they were finishing their discussion to say no, that they didn't feel that they needed to even consider it. I stayed for the meeting to continue to listen, and then when the public was given an opportunity to speak, with my full disclosure as a board member, but speaking as a parent and a member of the community, I did express my concerns that it would be really wonderful if they would remove the polling places from our schools. Their response was the schools should shut down. I don't believe that I do not support that position. I think it's hard enough to find days that we can make up, and with calendars and crazy weathers. I did ask what can parents do or what can the community do to get their voices heard, because no one knew that this meeting was taking place. And I was told that if the parents are interested, if the school is interested, you can request through your township clerk to have the Board of Elections come in to look at the polling place and to address some of those concerns. And I would say if parents are truly concerned about it, that would be something that I would encourage you to do, is to reach out and do that. But as I said, their initial response was that it's too hard for them to find someplace else to move the polls to. I also wanted to congratulate our students for at the middle school for the Back to the 80s production and Legally Blonde here at the high school. They were both fantastic productions. Always amazed at the level of professionalism and just awestruck by the talent of our students. And I think it's real important that we not only acknowledge the actors and the actresses, but the students that were stagehands, the students that helped with the costumes, all the teachers, the school staff, and especially the parents. And I know Dawn was there working at Legally Blonde and other parents, and I just think they were great shows. On April 17th, I attended the first annual Multicultural Festival sponsored by the Monroe Township Human Relations Commission. I was absolutely blown away by the incredible dancing that was exhibited, getting to talk to the different community group tables, and we actually had 2 of our high school groups that were represented there. And it was a great opportunity, and it was nice to be welcomed in and getting to be part of that day to go and observe everything. And my daughter enjoyed it too, which she's 13, and to have her have fun with her mom is really a struggle. So I also attended the New Jersey School Boards Association Visionary Leadership Training, which was a weekend training opportunity to build better boards of education. And one thing that I took away from it is the need for boards of eds to have an opportunity to become a team by having what they are calling, oh my goodness, my brain, retreats. And they really recommended a Saturday morning retreat with breakfast together and having that opportunity. And I would like that to be something that we as a board could talk about, because I think that it would be wonderful if we could come back together to be a more cohesive board. I also attended the Middlesex County School Board's meeting. I've been avoiding my house. No, so at the Middlesex County School Board's meeting, one of the greatest things, that I really enjoyed was L.H. Stroll from Jamesburg asked the United Way of Central New Jersey to come in and talk about the opportunities for grants that they have and different things that they're doing within Jamesburg to help build stronger families. And I know that they're very focused right now on the pre-K in Jamesburg, but I think as I spoke to the woman from the United Way, she said there's ways that we can carry that over for when the Jamesburg students join us in the high school. So I have their handout. If anybody's interested in it, I'd be more than happy to share that with you. I attended with Jill DeMayo, the student, and Steve was there at the Middlesex County Board meeting with me, which was great. At the Student Achievement Conference, we got to hear from school districts around the state, and one of my favorites was Vernon, New Jersey, who is doing a cooperative with their county college. They're a district that is really going down in enrollment, so they have opened up their school actually to have college courses in their schools. And the gentleman spoke at length about the way that they've been able to open opportunities for the students that might not be going on to colleges and giving them job sampling and things. So that was probably my favorite part of that thing. I attended the legislative committee meeting for this past Saturday in Steve's place, and I just wanted to share that there were a couple big things that they talked about. We had a presentation by Mark Mager, who's Senate Majority Office. He works for Sweeney, and he said, and I wrote this down so that I would have it, that if a school district got money last year, you should expect that money to double this year. So that he said that Senator Sweeney and his office is really working on having the school funding formula fully funded and ran, and they want to get rid of the hold harmless provision, and they want to take away the growth caps. Those are the two things that are hurting Monroe Township the most. So they're really seeing that as that comes about, that they should be able to, in the next 4 to 5 years, fund school districts appropriately, which doesn't make the districts that are going to be losing money happy, but it is what it is. And, to get our fair share of the funding would be wonderful. Along with that, on May 22nd at Brookside School, New Jersey School Boards Association is holding a meeting for advocating for fair funding for all school boards in the central region. So if any of you who can join that on, I think it's the 22nd.
Yes.
I think I had the right date.
Yes.
So we have that. And then next week.
I think it's 6:30.
6:30 or 7 o'clock? Yeah, something like that.
I think it's 6:30 to 9:30.
And I know the women from Chesterfield are very instrumental in running this meeting. And then my final thing is delegate assembly is next week. I was supposed to have gotten the packet already, but I haven't gotten the packet. But if you go on to the New Jersey School Boards Association delegate assembly website, and I can email it to you, if you have any comments or any input that you want to give to me prior to the meeting, please do. I would appreciate your feedback. But I know they're going to be talking about school security, and they're going to be talking about, I don't remember the second one. So I tried to remember everything, but I couldn't do it. I tried.
Well, you haven't been doing much, Patty, so.
No.
Mr. Ryback.
First, I'd just like to say that Mrs. Lang's being very humble, because at that meeting in New Jersey School Board, both she and Mr. Mayo were honored for their work, the professional development that they've been doing with New Jersey school boards. I know they both received certificates. So
Congratulations to both of you.
Also, last Saturday, I was honored to be able to attend the Community Awareness Seminar sponsored by India-U.S. Forum in Monroe. It was at the Senior Center. And there were really two topics there. One was domestic violence and substance abuse. They had experts do presentations. We had two of our own police officers talk about domestic violence, and we had two town council women there, as well as State Senator Greenstein. So it was well attended by the community, and we had representatives there, and I'd like to see more of this kind of work, and I credit the organization. I think Andy is one of the heads of it, and I certainly like to credit him for the work that they all do. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayo?
I would just like to say congratulations to all our Teachers of the Year and Educational Service Professionals of the Year. It was an honor to share your special moment tonight. I could see how much all of you love your jobs and the children you serve. Our district is so lucky to have you here. Congratulations.
Thanks. Ms. Arminio?
Just to quickly reiterate what Jill said, congratulations to all the Teachers of the Year and the staff to the year, and to the children who served at the dinner. It's extraordinary, just as we, with the plays and the music, it's extraordinary, the skill of the culinary arts, and the kids were wonderful. And thank you for the little serenade we got as we walked out of there. So thank you to the students, parents, and of course the teachers who got Teachers of the Year. Thank you.
Mr. Rutsky?
All right, so real quick, I just wanted to thank Patty for attending everything that you do. Wonderful that you make yourself available for all that, so thank you. I wanted to just tell you that with the United Way, because they have been wonderfully supportive of Jamesburg. They're really focused on early childhood education. They did have a meeting at the Monroe Library maybe 2 weeks ago. They're coming back to do another second round meeting next Monday night in Jamesburg at the library to just further discussions on how they could be more involved. They're just very open, willing, and able and happy to help. And so they're going to come back next Monday to see what else they can do and where they could lend more resources. So they're a great facilitator of resources. They sort of quarterback from different corporations, Johnson & Johnson or Certainteed Windows or whatever the company is, and they go to United Way and say, listen, we have $10,000 that we'd like to get out into the community, please help us. And United Way then directs it. And so it's great to apply to them for grants and things of that nature.
Where is this meeting going to be?
The Jamesburg Library, Monday, I think also 6:30. I could double check that. And I just wanted to thank Ms. Arminio for signing up to go to the June 1st school boards about school security. And I look forward to whatever information you could bring back from that.
Well, just so you know, I do have a scheduled closing that I may have to attend, but I'm going to try to at least go, if that doesn't get rescheduled, I will be there from beginning to end. If not, and I have to be with my clients, then I will go as soon as it's over. I may actually absent myself from my job to do this, but.
It's tough because they do it on a Friday and it's an all-day class at Mercer County College. If they did it on a Saturday.
Well, Saturdays I work too,
that's true,
but the point is, I have gone to several of the Fridays and generally they are, I'm available, I make myself available. But my schedule is not my own when it comes to that kind of thing.
Well, I just thank you for signing up and.
Oh, it's important.
And hopefully, if you make it, you'll bring back some great
I
information.
hope to. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of reiterate what everyone said about the teachers and the professionals that were honored, the award winners that were honored tonight, and then our culinary arts students who I think did a phenomenal job cooking and serving, and just the level of professionalism was amazing. And every year that I've attended, I've enjoyed it and learned a lot about our staff. The one thing I will, and I don't want to go negative, but I will. One thing I'm going to ask is just that in the future, if we could invite the MTEA president, I think that would be nice to do, considering that those teachers belong to the union, and I think it would be nice for her, or whoever's the president at the time, to be able to also celebrate with us. And that's it. Thank you.
It's a great suggestion. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so at this time, we will go to the public forum. Anyone wishing to speak about anything, please come to the microphone. Give your name and address for the record, and we will adhere to our 4-minute time limit.
Doug Poy, Doug Poy. I live at 4 Tamarack. I want to share with you an observation of this evening. During the first public forum, supposedly comments or questions are supposed to be restricted to what is on the agenda. One of the speakers approached and wanted to speak of the superintendent's contract, but was denied being able to ask any question or make any comment on that because it was not on the agenda. But yet another speaker came up and asked a question about the homework policy as well as the building referendum. Neither one of those items are on the agenda either. And all I'm saying is it sends a mixed message in terms of what is going to be answered and not answered during the first public forum. So I'm sure that that was not intentional, but I think the board needs to be very, very careful about being consistent during that first public forum. Also, I was a bit disturbed during the lengthy discussion about the security. I felt that, and I do commend you, Mr. Gorski, for providing all of the information that you provided, and yet you are the business administrator. And I felt that you were being called upon and questioned to answer items of concern to members of the board that should have been correctly addressed to either the superintendent or the assistant superintendent. And yet you were very willing to provide those answers. Once again, I think we just have to be careful how much we burden our business administrator with, because some of those things are not actually in his domain of responsibility.
He's a security specialist.
Then just a couple of other things that I noted here. Oh, the sidebar agreement that was approved tonight, item L, the sidebar agreement between the MTEA and the board. Could you disclose what the nature of that sidebar was?
Madam?
Yes.
Mr. Poy, that sidebar has to do with security and changing the compensation design for armed security as opposed to non-armed security. It affords advanced step on the guide to the top step of the night shift pay schedule plus $1 an hour for all armed security.
Thank you.
It has an annual cost, by the way, of about $90,000 just for the labor component.
Okay, I appreciate that additional information. In connection with the lengthy discussion of the security policy, I had mentioned this in prior board meetings. In fact, I even mentioned it when I was a member of the board. I think it might have been in my first year when Dr. Hamilton was the superintendent. I strongly encourage the administration to consider having a district crisis counselor to help students with deaths, with thoughts of suicide, with deaths of parents or siblings, or whatever the situation might be, because a lot of our students do face those. I believe that currently here in Monroe they are handled by individual counselors, but I think there is a benefit in having a crisis counselor that is skilled in dealing with those issues. That is someone that students can feel comfortable turning to and can also feel comfortable going to and possibly mentioning the fact that they have a friend who is talking about having guns or talking about possibly wanting to hurt someone. Other school systems do have a crisis counselor. They work in the district. They go from building to building, and they have found it extremely beneficial. I think Monroe has been blessed with the fact that we have had few, if any, I'm not aware, but we possibly have had some student suicides because they are extremely disruptive to the learning environment as well as to the surviving students.
Thank you, Mr. Poi. Your time is up.
Okay, thank you. I'm finished anyway.
That's okay.
Thank you.
But I think I'll have Dr. Alvick answer that question about the crisis counselors.
Mr. Poi, yes, we actually do have a behavioral support team in the district, and Miss Irene Barada is actually our counselor, one of our school psychologists that works with every school in the district. So she is kind of leads that, and as part of one of the committees I've worked with closely with this year is the whole supporting the whole child committee. We are working with all of our child study teams and guidance counselors to ensure that they're getting the training that they need.
Anthony Prezioso, 8 Equestrian Way. Back to my question about what is the status of the superintendent's contract?
As I said at the last Board of Education meeting, the superintendent received a statutory notice.
Okay, when did he receive that?
I do not have the date
Well,
offhand.
give me an idea. I mean, you must know.
He did it in the board did that in a timely manner.
Kathy,
Yes, sir.
don't go around the question. You know when you gave it to him. When did you give it to him?
I do not have the date off of me. I do not have.
You don't
the-
have to give me a date. You know what? You could give me at the end of the month, the beginning of
It
the month.
was the end of March.
The end of March?
The end of March.
Okay, were the other board members notified about this?
Yes, they were.
All they were? Every single board member?
Yes, they were.
You know, I commend some of the board members that walked out on the last couple of board meetings. You know, it took courage to do it, and I know you did it because there was a lot of wrong things going on and inappropriate things going on, and I just feel that our superintendent's getting the bad end of the stick here. But, you know, when you ask a question, you get skated around. That's not being open. So I commend the people that walked out. You had your courage to do it, and I would consider you asking some of the questions at the other board business, asking some of these questions. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public?
Prakash Parab, 33 Dana Drive. Prakash Parab, 33 Dana Drive. Okay. I've been told to be soft today because I've become emotional, so I'm very soft today. A lot of good discussion, and thanks for those who are lobbying for funding, fair funding. So I request, like last meeting, I requested that please write letter to Governor, Senate President, and the Speaker of the House. So I appreciate if the Board of Education President can write a letter. Can you please do that?
I can write on behalf of the board if the board requests me to do that.
Okay, please ask the board. I'm requesting the board to write a letter because these 3 guys are going to make a decision. So you'll not believe, from my community, we drafted a letter, I drafted a letter, and we, Monroe Indians for Civic Action, sent out about 70 letters. So please do that. I appreciate. Okay, that's the request. Okay, do it within next 7 days because they are going to take decision in June. So governor is looking at that. So more letters, more prominent letters. Mayor wrote, and some of the council people went. So I appreciate that. Okay, so that's the one. And then regarding another one thing is, again, last time I requested, your parents should be allowed, give us time slot, just 15 minutes or something like that, so the parents can come and speak at 7:30, and the meeting, if you all want, move it to 6:30, so the parents can come. So look into the policy, what you all can do, okay? Yeah.
Well, at this point, it has to go through policy and make changes, but there is a whole list of policies that are mandated that we have to go through before we can even get to that one.
Correct.
So it's probably not going to be done before the end of this school year.
just
Yeah.
think of it. I know that policy takes 6, 7 months, some of the
Yeah.
policies to do that, so please.
We've been working on the security policy, so a lot of the policies have been on hold until we get this one accomplished.
Okay. Another one thing, I went for the Legally Blonde, that show, so great. I think we don't announce it to the public because the children have to see it first and a few parents, but the student practice so well. So maybe that in summer or something, they can repeat the show, it will be great. So it was a very good performance. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Joyce Oliva, formerly Sweeney, Las Vegas. And I do know the rules. Now I can talk about anything.
Yes, you can.
So, okay, first of all, quickly, regarding the referendum and it going down, I was part of the district when the initial referendum years ago went down, when Dr. Ferry was here. The idea was we have to commit to have the rest of the community involved. And certain things have always been done in an effort to gain goodwill with the community. One of them, which I understand has since been canceled, is the adult ed program, which I had been part of at one point. And that is such a good community relations, and that's why it was originally established. And to just shut it down, not going to help you gain favor with the public. I was going through the minutes. I've been going through them periodically. I realized that when I was doing them, because I was Mike's secretary prior to Nancy, I was taught by Wayne Holliday, the best of the best. Start with July as the first of the year, work through to June. Start it with page 1, work it to the end where Mike signs it. Next one, you pick up with whatever that number was, and continue. It should be sequential. There is no rhyme or reason. I can see if you don't want to put numbers, don't put any numbers. But when I look at it and I see 171, 171, 171, 171, then you go to another one and it's 190, 190. It's sloppy, and for anybody from the public that might look at it, it's really a reflection on the district as a whole, and Mike specifically. For those who knew me, you know that I retired after being out on a medical leave for some heart issues due to stress. I am now stress-free. I was wondering that there are certain things that I can now say, and I'm hoping that certain things are now being done, such as any mail that comes in addressed to the Board of Education members indeed gets distributed to all the Board of Education members without you, or in the one case I know of, the superintendent deciding to keep mail from the board that I already had in envelopes, addressed, ready to be sent by messenger, and I was told, pull it. This was not with you. This was back when...
Just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no, I never worked with you. No, this was back when I was working.
I know, but when you said superintendent,
that was
I just
Dr.
wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that was Dr. Hamilton.
Okay.
Initially, I mean, I'm hoping that petty cash from different departments such as transportation is now being used exclusively for things regarding the transportation department, which it was not always done in the past. And finally, when I left here, I totally felt, oh, one more. When I was out on leave, Mike had asked my fill-in to box all of my personal effects, including a little refrigerator, and take it to the basement without my knowledge. And I happened to find out one evening when I stopped by the board office, and then by the time I returned home 3 miles away and went to check my email, which I had been staying on top of, Mike had Reggie shut my email down. And when I went in the next day, spoke with Dr. Hamilton and Mike, it was agreed upon that since technically I am an employee, and I guarantee you there are people that have retired 15 years ago who still have their email active. So I wondered when I was going to get the little money for the refrigerator that went to the basement and then disappeared.
Your 4 minutes are up.
Yeah, I know, and since he got 30 seconds more, all I need is 30 seconds. Mike?
I'll give you
I do
20.
hope, because I felt terribly harassed and bullied, and other people that I worked with felt the same way, but needed the job more than I did. So I hope that there is more peace in that office, there is less harassment and less bullying, because there'll be less productivity. That's all.
Anyone else from the public? Oh, look who's here.
Lou Masters, 9 McKellar Court, but I think everybody has my address and phone number now, just in case. Tonight, over at the middle school, was the Tag Expo. I don't know if this was mentioned, I just wanted to bring it up. Really excellent program, great seeing the kids there. They were doing robotics, and somebody had a robotic hand, and something for therapy with people in hospitals. I just wanted to recognize some of the teachers. I'm not going to read the whole thing, don't worry. Bernadette Chin, Stephanie Aarons, Tanya D'Agostino, Pat McTurnan, Daniel Fields and Maureen Wright, Sherry Holmes and Andrew Chawla, Carissa Crombie and Scott Messenger, Michael Pilato and Jody Heil, Autumn Dawson and Parker Schmidt, Alyssa Mortellaro and Holly Jeruzowitz, Ashley Bueller and Kathleen Wood, Francis Balliant and Kerry Curran. Again, it was a great program. I love this. I think this is the second year. The kids get a kick out of it, and it really does showcase some of our more advanced skills. So thank you, everybody, for that.
Next year, I hope it's not on the same day as a board meeting, or they have it at where the board meeting is so that we could attend and see that also. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Seeing none, we'll close public forum and go to closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21, to discuss the following subjects: harassment, intimidation, and bullying, discussion regarding the memorandum of agreement in connection with a new collective negotiations agreement between the board and the Monroe Township Education Association. Following closed session, action may be taken. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella, Mr. Mayo, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? I'm not even sure how long this could possibly take. Anybody have an idea? I'm thinking 45 minutes to an hour. At this time, the board will move back into public session, and I have a resolution to read. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the previously submitted memorandum of agreement between the Board of Education and the Monroe Township Education Association for the period from July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020, MOA. The board president and the business administrator board secretary as the attesting witness are hereby authorized and directed to sign a collective negotiations agreement which incorporates the terms of the MOA. The business administrator board secretary is hereby further authorized and directed to take all necessary steps to implement this action by the Board of Education.
So moved.
Second.
Moved, Mr. Chiarella and Mr. Ryback. Any comments or questions? Ms. Arminio?
Okay, here I go. My statement prior to the vote is, in a democracy, there needs to be more than one voice at the table. And as an elected official, we're not only speaking of our own selves or our own interest, we represent various community voices. We ask all residents to support our budgets. So sometimes we have to listen to, again, their voices. I've attended hours and hours of school board training over the years, training from New Jersey school boards about our obligations of oversight. I know I'm not popular, and some of my votes are not popular, but I feel out of necessity, and again, sometimes the democracy is cumbersome. I am compelled, my vote will be, I'm compelled to vote no due to procedural issue and one aspect of the memorandum of agreement. So I just need to say that before I vote. I want to be
Anyone else?
transparent and take my medicine
Okay.
when it comes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, I just want to say that I respect what your thoughts, Michelle. I would just like to say that I'm voting for this because I think that this agreement, this contract, does what we set out for it to do. Some of the things that we wanted to do was to be able to attract new teachers and retain the teachers that we have. And I think that that's important for us to do as a district. I think it's important, whether you have children in the district or not, to have a strong school system that's attractive not only to students and parents, but also to teachers. So that for that reason, I'm going to vote for it. But I also want to, take the time to thank all the board members and the administration, our committee, for the time that they put in, and the MTEA committee for the time that they put in, because there's always two sides to every argument, or two sides to every side. It doesn't even matter. It's late, but they worked hard also, and I think we met in the middle, and so I'm voting for this.
Thank you. Mr. Ryback?
I too would just like to say I think this contract benefits both sides, benefits everybody, but I want to just give out a shout of thank you to both negotiating teams throughout the whole process. It was a long process, over a year. We all maintained the level of professionalism. There was never any negative statements being made, never any yelling. It was civil, and I was proud of both negotiating teams. I really appreciate everyone.
And no food poisoning.
No
Yeah,
food
no,
poisoning.
yeah, I think that's the best thing, no food poisoning. And I would also like to reiterate what Ken and Steve said, because this went way longer than I had anticipated it would go. And I just like to not just thank the negotiating teams, but the MTEA itself and the membership for being so respectful. I know you had to do what you needed to do, but I think you were all really gracious about how you were handling everything, and like I said, this did go a lot longer, but I think it's a good negotiation and a good contract for everybody. If one side is very happy and the other side isn't, that's not good. If both sides come out of this and neither feel like they got everything they wanted, that's a good contract, and I just want to thank everybody for working together throughout the process, and I will be voting in support of the contract. So if there's no other comments or questions, we'll have a roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Arminio.
Regretfully, no.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. DeMayo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lang.
Yes.
Mr. Ryback.
Yes.
Mr. Rutsky.
Yes.
And Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, of course, Jamesburg representative is eligible to vote. That is 6 yeas. The memorandum of agreement has passed.
Thank you very, very much. So at this time, we'll go to public forum, and since we have public, maybe somebody wants to talk, and so anyone who wishes to come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record, and we will adhere to our time limit.
Doug Ploy, 4 Tamarack Road. I very much appreciate the fact that the contract has finally been settled. And I'm just wondering if you are at liberty to somewhat outline the major accomplishments of this contract?
Not at this time. We will do so after the contract has been signed by both parties.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, our next scheduled Board of Education meeting.
I think somebody.
Congratulations on approving the contract. Well needed.
Could you please
Congratulations.
state your name?
Oh.
Yeah, you know, we
I
still have to do
forgot.
that.
I forgot. Joyce Oliva, previously Sweeney, Las Vegas. Anyway, thanks to all the teachers. I must say, I loved working in this school district. It's a wonderful district, wonderful people. By the time I left, it was getting a little bit too political. And hopefully everything can resolve itself. I don't know how to really bring this up. I still am a member of, on Facebook, some of the websites such as Monroe Township Voice, and I read something recently between two people discussing something, and it was with a lot of disrespect.
Oh, I'm sorry, but this public forum is only on the closed session resolution.
Oh, it doesn't say that on the,
It should, because
but
usually-
it didn't say that. Do we have the agenda?
No, because that's usually what we always do, is that the last public forum,
There used to only be two.
well, we have
Somewhere along
three.
the line, there's three, but it didn't say, it just said open public forum.
Okay, that's
So-
normally what we have, is the last public forum is for the closed session.
Okay. Okay. I will then speak to some of the people privately after to the other thing that has an ethical violation. Okay.
Okay, our next scheduled Board of Education meeting is scheduled for June 13, 2018, 7 o'clock PM at the Monroe Township High School. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Mrs. Lang and Mr. Mayo,
She
all in
beat you.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then the meeting is adjourned.